Kyle, good to see you. Welcome to another episode of Amazon Monthly Insights. This one is for the month of May 2021. How are you, Kyle?
Good, John. Thanks for having me. How are you?
Good. Doing well. All right, so we have a solid list here today. We have kind of general updates. We have a handful of those. We have a couple in the content and catalog bucket, and then we have looks like just one on the advertising side of things. So we'll kind of run through it from the top. The first one, and it's an important one, Prime Day.
Yeah, so we finally got confirmed dates for Prime Day, officially running June 21st and 22nd, pretty much right in line with kind of all the indications we've had for the past couple of weeks, but that is now official. Most brands should be well underway of planning and coordinating for that. But if you've been dragging your feet, definitely have a deadline now that you're working up against. We've already started to see CPCs rise somewhat significantly in certain categories. So as always, the sooner you could get ahead of Prime Day prep, the better, even if you're not necessarily participating, whatever your strategy is, the sooner the better when it comes to Prime Day, because it does come up pretty quickly.
Yeah, all right. It's a couple weeks away at this point. Next on here, capacity constraints.
Yep, so really continuation of a trend we've seen over the past couple of months, augmented because of, again, Prime Day being a couple of weeks away now. Really just seeing many indications, both before and due to Prime Day, backlogs at FCs. Lots of 1P clients have reported seeing purchase orders decline in volume over the past couple of weeks. We've also seen various suspensions of the Born to Run program, limits capped there, and also seen a lot of changes in the 3P side with storage allowances changing with relatively little notice, all premised around, again, capacity issues and backlog. So that's continuing. The more you can do, again, to secure inventory upfront, the better. If you have a dropship or fulfilled by merchant option to roll back to, highly recommend that. Just to have some support if you do run out of stock or can't get enough in, but continuing to see those ramp up as we get closer to Prime Day.
All right, yep, sounds good. Next on here, changes to the Vine program.
Yeah, so this one's a fairly big change. We've seen a lot of changing pieces when it comes to getting reviews on Amazon in a legitimate way. They just announced rolling out updates to Vine, where they're lowering the cost, at least on the 1P side, about $1,000 per enrollment, which is fairly significant. We're also seeing changes there where they're making the process a bit easier and more comprehensive, where they will now give the option to pull from existing inventory. Before, you'd have to kind of generate a custom shipment with unique labels and just added kind of operational churn. Now they'll just pull that from anything they have in stock. They'll also allow parent enrollments. Historically, you'd have to pick one or enroll separate children ASIN, which made doing Vine for any sort of size color variance a little confusing, because you'd have to basically pick one or enroll, again, all of them individually, which adds up on that cost. So they're rolling out a way to do that at a parent level, which I think is a huge improvement. So those should be coming through shortly, and definitely kind of making the Vine program a little more easier to use, better value, and obviously just lower costs, which inherently has value in and of itself. So,
yeah, I'm glad to see that as they're cracking down more on some fraudulent review stuff. I'm glad to see they're giving a better kind of legitimate avenue for that need for reviews. And actually, that's a good segue into our next topic, which is the Crackdown.
Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago at this point, Amazon did remove several pretty prominent sellers that happen to be based out of China from their platform pretty much completely. That happened with little notice, kind of overnight. Those listings or offers were essentially gone. And from what we've figured out, it seems to be really related to complying with Amazon's rules on the platform, policies around review authenticity, requesting legitimate reviews, refunds for a free product, and all of that kind of gray market things seem to have caught up to the brands that were caught up in this latest sweep. So really, John, to that point, it's these kind of two things moving forward in tandem, continuing to take action on those questionable tactics, and again, trying to make it easier for people that sort of follow the rules to continue to get those legitimate reviews in a way that's deemed appropriate by Amazon and kind of above the board. So.
Yeah, yeah, and it's. I think the New York Times called it the Great Purge or something. Maybe a little over dramatic, but no one's really been able to actually quantify the amount of ASINs pulled. But this feels different. That obviously Amazon's taken other action in the past. This one feels different because they pulled top sellers.
Right.
Before it was a lot of they were pulling off long tail kind of random 3P sellers you've never heard of with kind of random selection. But they never really kind of went after the big dollar items. They have. So I think it's an important signal to the industry that Amazon is really taking this stuff seriously, which is great.
Hey there. I'm Dave Zimmerman with Orca Pacific. I hope you're enjoying the show. I wanted to let you know this episode is brought to you by Orca Pacific, a Mighty Hive company. We're a full-service agency exclusively focused on Amazon with capabilities for everything a brand needs to succeed on the platform. From advertising strategy, content development and SEO, to merchandising and marketing. If it relates to driving and converting demand on the platform, our dedicated teams are leaders in this space. Our robust suite of services includes expertise on the back end as well, from operational support, demand forecasting and planning, to the right fulfillment options, and higher level strategies like long-term planning, channel management, and access to beta programs. To learn more, visit our website at www.orcapac.com. That's ORCAPAC.com. And a business development manager will get you up to speed on how we can accelerate your Amazon business. Now, back to the show.
All right, second to last in the general bucket, vendor seller accounts.
Yeah, so this one's sort of a I guess, quirky update that we've just noticed across all of our internal staff, where there seems to be some changing in platform hierarchy to some degree, where for users that have enrollments in both vendor and seller central, those vendor brands or accounts are showing up in the seller central login. So normally where you'd go to toggle between accounts, they're populating there. You can't actually do anything with it since there's still sort of the hierarchy of, a vendor account is a vendor account, you log it in vendor central, and same with the seller side. But the fact that they're appearing there is certainly of interest, and seems to be a development to something we've long been trying to figure out and get a lead on, which is that kind of one vendor or a single platform that we've heard rumblings of Amazon moving toward for quite some time. So there doesn't seem to be any tangible effect of this yet, other than them just being there. But an interesting thing to note, knowing there's a lot of those things that we assume have been happening behind the scenes for quite some time.
Yeah, I think that's another kind of breadcrumb in the journey to this kind of unified seller vendor concept. Okay, great. Last on the general updates, frustration-free packaging incentives. That was a tricky one.
Yeah, so this one's fresh off the press. Announcement just came, I think, this morning. But Amazon's pushing forward some new incentives on their FFP initiatives. As I'm sure everyone recalls, a little over a year or two ago, Amazon rolled out a requirement on oversized or non-sortable products to have to be at least SOC certified or pay a fine on each unit received. They're expanding those incentives to basically give some sort of credit to additional selection that rolls into SIOC or FFP for really any product, sortable or non-sortable at this point, as a way to continue their efforts to get more brands to adopt these efficiency programs and really further their climate-friendly or climate pledge initiatives, and just reduce or I guess increase capacity by way of having smaller footprints per unit that goes through their network, regardless if it's bigger or small. So more details to come on those specific incentive structures, but the more brands can do to lean into those, I think the better, because not only does this have a specific kind of financial incentive, there tends to be other pieces that brands can take advantage of if they kind of lean in and adopt some of these in terms of widgets around the site, kind of free placements on these climate-friendly landing pages that Amazon's been toying with, and things like that. And it's also just a general direction that Amazon's moving towards more broadly. So always good to kind of be ahead of the curve on some of those things as much as you can be.
Awesome. Okay, that's great. So on to the content and catalog updates. We have two here. The first is HTML content support.
Yeah, so historically, Amazon allowed HTML code essentially in product descriptions. This was mostly used on the 3P side, just to clean up and kind of customize the way that those blocks of text look. It's been sort of in a gray area for a while now, where it's not necessarily unsupported, but not really encouraged. But Amazon's officially pulling support for those to no longer have to kind of make them function on the site and further templatize their detail page format as they continue to scale that up and add other options and things of that nature. So if you're in that sort of legacy bucket where you have HTML content that does need to be updated, if it's not updated, it will simply be suppressed once that discontinuation officially starts in July.
Yeah, okay. So when you say suppressed, do you think the whole ASIN will be pulled, or your ASIN will just have no content on it? I mean, either one. Okay.
I would assume the latter. Yeah, I think just the descriptions would go away, or anywhere else that's embedded.
Okay, either way, something you want to avoid. Okay, cool. Second update on the content catalog side of things, Nis Templates Discontinued.
Yep, so similar in scope, I think, kind of signaling the further consolidation or alignment on catalog in general that Amazon's been trying to move towards. In this case, there's been a slow and steady move from the old kind of legacy Nis template process to a newer kind of product setup workflow within Vendor Central. A lot of categories have already moved over at this point. There's a handful of lingering ones that are in, I think, this final batch where we're sort of officially deprecating that old process. So it adds more flexibility, it adds more consistency from Amazon's side to keep their catalog maintained, consistent, correct. But a lot of brands that haven't been pushed over yet, it is a slightly new process. Would definitely recommend getting acclimated to those, or at least preparing your kind of setup workflows accordingly to be ready for this new change, so it doesn't throw a little wrench in the mix there.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. All right, last update on here before we go to questions, transparency customer engagement.
Yeah, so the transparency program has been out for a while now. And just as a reminder for anyone who's not aware, it's a way to have Amazon serialize your product to help with authenticity, knockoff products, just controlling what's being sold on site and expiration dates and a lot of those sort of pieces as an add-on almost to brand registry and some of those other programs Amazon's been rolling out. This is a new feature of transparency where part of the process is literally a serial label on the product that you can scan. Customers can see, when it was made, who made it. Again, kind of going back to that authenticity piece. But they're now rolling out a way to essentially use that as a marketing mechanism to make offers or other sort of reach outs to customers to get benefits to scanning those barcodes. So things like offering promotions, giving sort of updates or details around the product, the brand, that sort of thing, giving a way to kind of cross and upsell in that process of using the transparency barcode. So I think it's a way of Amazon building a bit of an ecosystem around transparency and trying to get more usage and integration there, both on the customer side and on the brand side, where they're really making it more than just a authenticity piece, but as a way to further kind of engage and communicate with your brand and your customers on Amazon.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. Well, that'll be interesting to see where that one goes. Well, good. Okay. So that was our update. So we're going to end the podcast recording here. So anyone listening to the podcast, we'll see you again next month. We will be doing Q&A for the folks that are sticking around live.